All right. Happy Monday, everybody. 35 degrees right now. Rain showers today, near 40. 24 tonight, a little bit of rain and snow in the mix, and then 30 tomorrow with some sun and maybe some flurry activity. Welcome to the beginning of the work week. Welcome to Aired Out. It is an absolute pleasure to have you along the BARRE Business Hour each and every Monday morning with CODY MORRISON, who is literally right next to me, which is nice, buddy. It's nice to have you back over here.
Good morning. It's good to be back over here.
Kind of transitioning a little bit to getting people a little closer to one another, which is nice.
Might finally start being some light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, today was a huge moment for Lily. Her first day in school, literally ever, without having to wear a mask. And, wow. I mean, you know, all of kindergarten, all of first grade, a mask all the time on school property. And to see the looks on the faces of those kids that were getting off the bus this morning and gathering in front of the school and getting ready to go in was amazing. I mean, people were kind of smiling at each other, but staring at each other too. I mean, it's really incredible.
Yeah, I can. How did she feel about it? Was she excited? Was she nervous?
Just very excited. But there was something that was a little kind of sad for me is that when she went to give me a kiss goodbye, she reached up to pull her mask down and didn't have a mask on. But it's just ingrained in her. So anyway, it was a great moment this morning, a great way to start the day, and hopefully it's going to continue like this. And we've got some light at the end of the tunnel here.
Well, if it's any consolation, the next time we have a big pandemic, she'll be ready. Her generation will be ready.
Yeah,
will be better prepared than ours were.
Exactly. Busy weekend for me. I'm assuming the same for you. I know there was. You were just telling me off the air there was a lot of activity up at the Barre Auditorium.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we had 60-degree weather yesterday, so we lost a ton of snow.
I
know. I am a very big fan of spring. April is my favorite month. Days like this in March are probably my second favorite month of the year.
Yeah.
Just because from here until November, the weather's just going to be keep getting better every single day.
Of course.
So once April hits, I'm just going to be a happy guy.
You're a mud season guy, huh? You like the mud season.
Well, I just don't want to deal with 20 below every day. You do enough farm chores outside in the freezing cold on top of a mountain. You do that enough, and you kind of appreciate when Mother Nature is
breaks a little.
When she takes it easy on you. But huge weekend for Spalding High School sports. On Friday, you had the girls hockey team advancing to the state championship game. They won a nail biter 4-3 over, I think it was Essex. I wasn't at the game, but they won 4-3. The BOR was packed, and they actually play in the state championship tonight. Division I girls hockey state championship.
I got to see if Carl Parton's got. I'm sure he's going to CVTsport.net.
So they're playing up at UVM tonight, up at Gutterson.
Wow.
So 8:00, tune in if you can make it up there. Head up there.
Okay.
And then on Saturday, you had the girls Division II state championship basketball game.
Yeah.
So our Spalding girls playing against Mount Abe, and it was a tough game, but they lost in the end. But it was a very good game, very well fought by both teams, and the auditorium was absolutely packed.
I'm sure it was.
Whether it was Spalding playing against them or whether it was U32 or any other team in the state, the game still would have been played at the Barre Auditorium, which is one thing that's so great about having that asset right here in the community.
That's right.
I've told this story before, and I'll tell it again. That's how I got to know Barre for the first time. We would come over and watch Blue Mountain Union play We had family friends because we are from the Groton-Reigate area originally. So that was actually the first school that I went to is BMU. I went to preschool there. But we would have family friends with kids that would be playing for BMU over here at the auditorium. So once a year or so, whether it be for one of those games or whether it be for some sort of gun show, Jake's Day event, National Wild Turkey Federation, something or other. We'd hop in the family car and we'd come over here once a year or so and come over to Barrie. I always remember, and
I'm sure you went to the farm show too, right?
Yep. That's one I vividly remember those. I remember the silent auctions at those. I mean, I was little at the time, but I remember. I think we bought 3 of our cars over in this area. Yeah. One in Berlin, I remember, and I know they bought one at Walker VW years and years ago. So this area, thanks to the auditorium, that's how we got to know it. That's how I got to know it. I never would have known about Barrie if it wasn't for that asset that we had over here. And while we're talking about the game, I want to apologize to somebody.
Oh boy!
I want to apologize to Michael Deering, our new city councilor. So him and I. So we were texting, and I'm sure he's laughing right now if he's watching.
Oh, he is.
So I was at the game, and Michael was coming up from New Jersey. He had a football convention of some sort. So him and his family were driving back up to Vermont. And so Michael and I were texting back and forth because he's a huge sports guy. So a few seconds after the game ended, I texted him and said, tough loss. Mount A played tough. They deserved the win. And little did I know how much of a delay there was between the live stream. So I broke the news to him.
No.
So he texted me like, "No, you ruined it for me.
You ruined it."
So sorry about that, Mike. I'll try not to do it again.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny though. But yeah, awesome asset that we have here in the community.
Yeah, it is.
The Barrie Auditorium is known throughout the state of Vermont, and we're very lucky to have it here.
We are. Have you heard any rumblings about the farm show maybe someday coming back?
I haven't heard anything about it. Who used to put that on? It wasn't Rotary. It would have been one of the ag groups, the farm groups here.
Yeah, that was a huge event. My God.
Yeah, but I think now
they moved it to Burlington. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, now I mean, I don't know how many people are in the auditorium on Saturday.
Yeah.
There were up in the balcony. There were a few seats that were available, but if you were on the bleachers, just down below, for those 30, 40 rows, it was you were packed tight.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it was good to see just hundreds of people crammed into a space again. It's weird to say, it's weird to think, but
right. Saturday, I got out on the Lake Fairleigh with the girls and was there for a couple of hours for the Lonnie Wade Memorial Ice Fishing Tournament, which was just incredible. The weather was just awesome. Just awesome.
You're not one of those guys that drives their truck out on the ice, are you?
We didn't, but I mean everyone did. I mean there were just trucks and cars and trailers and everything parked out there everywhere. Yeah, there's 2 camps. There's and there's no. When it comes, Raylene won't even go anywhere near the edge of the ice.
Unless you have like a week of 20 below weather, and it's the worst part of winter.
Yeah,
and when I say worst, I mean cold. Yeah, then you might catch me driving out a little bit onto it, but no, I'm good.
Oh, there was a gazillion shanties. I mean, as far as the eye could see, and even far beyond. I was surprised that we didn't have a drone out on the lake because it was just literally a sea of shanties, especially to the northern end of the lake there, but. I mean, Dwayne Tucker and his crew cooking up some amazing food. Crew meaning Caitlin, really. But, I mean, they just worked so hard. They put so much food together. And it was just, you weren't going to go away hungry. I think I had like 3 bowls of venison stew. I had 1 stew, 1 chili, and some corn chowder. It was just amazing.
Oh, it's a good way to goof off and
Oh, it was wonderful, and they were selling shirts and sweatshirts, and so many people were pulling some huge fish out of the lake and getting them measured up right there at the weigh station, and it was just wonderful. It was a great experience. Not sure about the rain on Sunday, but overall it was a great weekend for the Lonnie Wade Memorial Ice Fishing Tournament.
Oh, so on a random note, a good friend of the show I heard about. I heard a good friend of this show, Rusty DeWees, get mentioned when I was talking to the director of a performing arts venue in New Hampshire recently.
Yeah, great.
So, a little fun fact: in the last job I worked with, I helped get a couple big grants for renovations at the Opera House in Newport, New Hampshire.
Yep.
And so I worked very closely with the director there. So on a whim, I called their director on Friday just to say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
We've worked on a couple projects together. I think it was like equipment, a couple different projects. And I heard her mention that Rusty DeWees was coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, I know who that is.
Yeah, I think he did a show, what was it, Saturday night, I think.
Yep. And the funny thing is, Rusty was the last act that had played there before the pandemic hit in 2020.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Which, the funny thing is, thinking back to it now, I remember Meg, the director down there, I remember her talking about Rusty very casually as if you or I would, and I remember hearing the name Rusty DeWees during that time, and I don't know who the guy was at the time, but now that you mentioned it, like it clicked. I very much remember that. So
yeah,
it's kind of funny hearing our friends from over the river.
Oh yeah, he loves that Opera House too, big time. He loves it.
I hope so. I put a lot of
so historic. It's so beautiful.
Put a lot of time into that thing. I hope he does.
Yep. Well, this weekend, one of the highlights for me this weekend was, and I look forward to this all year long, was my first Shamrock Shake. That's how I know that there's hope for warmer weather. When I see that the Shamrock Shakes are being advertised, I go nuts.
What are creamies? When can you buy a creamy again here?
I don't know.
First of all,
that's another gear shift.
First of all, I'm gonna protest the fact that creamies aren't sold year round. I think it's bullcrap.
Really?
Oh, I don't know. Like we've caught ourselves over the winter wanting to go to Maple Woods and get a creamy. But
yeah,
I mean they should be sold year round. I'll start a petition. But yeah, it's the Shamrock Shakes. I would agree.
Oh,
I mean, I think I've only had one in my life. However, though, it is a sign that spring is here.
Yes, it is. And a friend of mine yesterday was all excited about going out and we're going out for Shamrock Shakes. So excited. Hey, I should. I want to mention here a couple of things. Number one, don't forget Barry Beat will be live tonight at 7:00. Right here from the ASB Financial Studios on North Main Street with Michael Booten, of course. Again, 7:00. Join us for that, for all things local politics. What was the other thing? I want to mention that we're working on getting Jay Young on the air. He's an oil and gas expert who's out in Texas, and he's going to be talking about the gas price spike that all of us are feeling and talking about. Some of us more than others, but over the weekend we really jumped. I mean, I think on Friday I was seeing $3.99.9, and just a couple of hours later on Friday, Raylene's texted me that it's gone to $4.09 and then $4.29, and what were you saying in Burlington, honey? I don't think she's there.
Yeah,
it was like
yeah, it's not getting cheaper.
It was like $4.40, I think, in Burlington.
I'm sure for 93, whether it's 93 or 87.
That's 87. So Jay Young is going to be joining us here on the podcast, and he's going to be talking to this, and I look forward to it. He's just published a book, which is a bestseller. New York Times bestseller, and this guy is the real deal. He knows about this more than anybody, and I look forward to him coming on the show. He'll be on real soon.
So that is an industry with all the turmoil in the world right now. That is an industry. The U.S. energy industry could see a big boom potentially, I think.
Yep.
We've been talking. I think I first mentioned this back in probably 2 months ago now, back in January, about how 100,000 Russian troops were congregating on the border of Ukraine, and if war did break out, the gas prices would surge, and lo and behold, that's what happened.
Yeah.
From the beginning of the war, which I think was February 24th. I've got notes here that say the national average, or the average in Vermont was $3.60 a gallon, and the national average was $3.51.
Yeah.
And now you can't drive by a gas station without seeing $4 a gallon gas. Even diesel, same.
Sure.
It's all going up, and that's very much expected. Russia is the world's second largest oil producer. I mean, they are the biggest country. They're going to have oil deposits in there.
10 million barrels a day is what Russia puts out.
Yep.
But do you know how many barrels America needs per day?
A lot more than that.
To function. 7 days a week. This is a 7-day-a-week average. America needs 20 million barrels. Not gallons, barrels.
Yep.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so
for the United States, that's just the United States.
That's just the United States.
Just the U.S., man.
So there's going to be a lot of other ripple effects. Every time you turn on the news, you're hearing about something changing with the economy. I remember, I think it was Monday and Tuesday last week, the Russian stock market didn't open.
Right.
There's a lot of companies that are pulling out of Russia right now. I think Amex and Visa. Amex and Visa did. You can't use Apple Pay or Google Pay if you're in Russia right now.
And what's going on with the whole internet, the whole World Wide Web in Russia?
Yeah, I guess they're gonna cut themselves off from the World Wide Web. I don't really know how that would work. I'm assuming maybe that means that they're gonna use their own Soviet web, whatever it is.
Wow.
But that's going to be happening. A lot of suppression, freedom of the press is being restricted over there. I guess Russian media can't use the word war anymore. I guess that word has been all but banned over there. But
makes you feel that much more lucky to live here.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of other industries that are impacted as well. Ukraine is known as Europe's breadbasket. Essentially, they import wheat and grains to a lot of corners of the world.
Yeah.
A lot of it goes to Africa. And let's see, I've got some notes right here. Russia is the world's second largest oil producer. Ukraine is a significant player in the barley and vegetable oil markets. And
didn't know that.
And many of their regions for wheat and corn are near the Russian border, many of their growing regions. So there is not only the food supplies that could see some inflation and more supply chain issues, more delays, availability concerns. There's a lot of natural resources that come out of Russia. So iron ore, copper, zinc, all those minerals that are needed to make things like cell phones and cars and steel and everything else in between. I know that I saw something last night that said that the price of copper has reached an all-time high of $5 per whatever their unit is of measurement. The ruble is dropping in value very fast. So you're seeing a lot of people's retirements, savings, things of that nature, deflating. I guess the U.S. dollar is strengthening because of this partially. You've got oligarch yachts that are being seized in various ports throughout the world. So the sanctions are hitting not only the oligarchs, but they are impacting the lives of your everyday Russian over there.
Wow.
But really, they're being taken out of the SWIFT banking system, which is a communication system for international banking transactions.
Yeah.
Which makes it hard to transfer money from here to Russia or to buy. So that really, I mean, Putin is achieving. Putin's aim is to resurrect the Soviet Union, the Russian Empire, and he's doing a great job of it because he's turning Russia into a hermit kingdom and isolating themselves more and more every single day.
Fucking madman is what he is.
And
I mean, really, that's what he is. He's
absolutely,
a madman.
Absolutely. Companies can only see, these people they're bombing. They're shelling. They shelled a nuclear power plant. They shelled a Holocaust site. And right next to that Holocaust site was a radio tower. So they tried to take both out. They're lobbing missiles at apartment buildings. I mean, companies. You're definitely seeing, probably more than you would have back in the past. Now that information is instantaneous,
sure.
You're seeing companies react to things like this more and more quickly.
Not to sound selfish, but there is a part of me that feels so blessed to have a little 7-year-old girl who just keeps me so occupied and distracted from all of this shit. Because I'm the type that would sit all weekend and watch the headlines and read all of the gory details of what's unfolding there. And I don't know. I just feel that way. If
you ever want to dive into that world, go on Twitter. Or if you want to stay away from that world, don't go on Twitter, because there's a lot of things that are very direct.
Yes.
And that are being posted on Twitter. However, though, this is really changing foreign policy, the post-Cold War foreign policy approach. So Germany recently announced that they're going to be doubling their defense spending. So they went from like $53 billion to $100 billion in defense spending. And I think with Russia being essentially Europe's gas station, you're going to have a lot of companies or a lot of countries right now are seeing the risks that are involved with that. So I think for the renewable energy sector, you're going to see a lot of technological advancement and investment, especially the U.S. can be energy independent. We can still extract natural resources from the ground, but the Europeans...
Yes, Jay Young is saying.
The European... for instance, Germany doesn't have the natural gas and the oil in the ground to be self-sufficient. I mean, that's one of the big reasons for World War II.
Yeah.
So you're also going to see probably a lot of European countries start to invest and redevelop their defense industries.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll be curious to watch for is how that impacts the U.S. military-industrial complex. So is Lockheed Martin, Boeing, BAE Systems, are those companies going to be building more planes and more jets and more weapon systems and sending them to Europe? Or over time, will the U.S. market share for the defense industry start to be cut into a little bit more and more by the developing industries in Europe, which they already do have a lot of that in place already, but with a grouchy neighbor, there's a little more of a bit of sense of urgency right now. But however, though, kind of looking at it locally here, there are a lot of Ukrainian families throughout the world that have been probably haven't been able to sleep much the last couple weeks.
Well, good morning to Ryan and Michael and Greg, who are all tuned in watching this morning. Let's welcome, by the way, to Aired Out, CODY Morrison from Barre Area Development. Let's localize it just a little bit. You were telling me over the weekend about the Rise Up Bakery here in the Granite City. Yep. What's the story about this bakery?
So the Rise Up Bakery, it is on, and I'm going to put a link in the chat here. So the Rise Up Bakery is owned by Jim and Larissa Haas. So Jim grew up in Vermont, but he moved to Ukraine in the 90s, and I believe they lived there for 28 years or so. And Larissa, his wife, is a native Ukrainian. So they moved over here however many years ago and worked with the Labor Hall to open the Rise Up Bakery. So they're right over on Granite Street. They're right down the road. Yeah, right down the road over there.
Straight shot out of the window here.
Yeah, so they're behind the Labor Hall. So if anyone at home is listening, if you go to the Chinese restaurant, Spectrum, the recruiter's office, it's that little left down the road down there.
Just past the Restore.
Yep. And they make some of the best bread I've had in a long time. They make baguettes. They make all kinds of bread that I didn't even know exist. They have people that come from Canada. They have people that come from all over Vermont to come and buy their bread.
Yeah, you were telling me there's this one guy that comes down here from Canada.
There's one guy from Quebec that comes down to buy baguettes. Wow. It's incredible what they do, and you can buy a couple loaves of bread there for like $10 or whatever, and it's fresh, it's warm, it's soft.
Wow.
It's
gotta get over there.
It's amazing. You got to get over there. It's over on Granite Street behind the Labor Hall. The Rise Up Bakery, great people over there.
And Ukrainians.
Yes, but it's also a great business to go and support.
Yes. Absolutely. Yep. But they've got presumably a pretty good network of friends and family that are in the Ukraine.
Yeah, and I would think with the last couple weeks, they've been their head's been elsewhere.
Sure.
But the Barrie community has really come out and support them, from what we understand.
Wow.
During the last few weeks. So
this is why I love having you on here, man. For reasons just like this, talking about this. If you haven't yet, walk in and introduce yourself to Jim and Larissa over at the Rise Up Bakery and support them as much as you can.
But anyways, on a more positive note now.
Yeah.
I know our conversation got a little grim for a minute there.
We're real, man.
Yeah,
real.
it's
the way it is.
What's going on over in Europe right now has impacts what we're doing over here. How much our materials are going to cost, how much our car parts, things like that are going to cost. But, anyway, so we learned late last week that Senator Leahy is reopening. Is accepting earmark funding requests again. So what is an earmark funding request? So as and I just put a link in the chat for anyone to go and see. So basically, a member of Congress, and when I say Congress, I mean the House and the Senate, a member of Congress has an opportunity now, thanks to Senator Leahy, to put in a community project, whether it be like a nonprofit, public school, basically any not for-profit company project, can put a project into the federal budget under like a certain department, and if it passes through all the hurdles of Washington and the budget committees and things of that nature, then you can ultimately get funding from it. So a couple projects that we have actively right now. The Quarry Hill Road intersection, the widening of the bottom of Quarry Hill Road on the city side, and the turning light in the turning lane. That project, if it goes through, will ultimately be funded thanks to an earmark request, thanks to Congressman Welch's office.
Yeah, we have V-Trans in here talking about that a little bit.
Yep, and that'll help with our infrastructure. I actually had a company recently ask about Quarry Hill Road and for trucking, for logistics.
Right.
So it's
Will there
something,
be a light there?
So I believe so. Michael, if you're listening and I believe it is that Michael can confirm. But that's something that big industrial companies and transportation logistics companies look for. They want to know that they can get their products from A to B in the most safe and efficient way possible.
Right. Plus, there's a lot of traffic in there on Thursday nights with Thunder Road.
Oh, and it's a sketchy corner as it is. If I come down Quarry Hill Road. That's my preferred route when I come to work and when I go home. And when you're coming from Quarry Hill Road, if you want to take a left to go towards South Barrie, that can be a pretty sketchy corner.
Yeah.
And we also have an earmark request in. We put one in through Senator Sanders' office for the North Main Street wastewater ejector station. Okay. So you and I have talked about that project. We got a grant for that last year, which actually is going to be the grant agreement is going to be approved at City Council tomorrow night.
That's something you spearheaded with Tracy, right?
So Luke, no, not Tracy. So I worked with Public Works on that. Lucas and we talked about it briefly last week. Yeah. But that was a grant that I worked with Public Works to write and get and secure.
See, I'm losing track of how many grants you're trying to get here and working on, buddy.
So we've got about $120,000. $120,000 that'll be signed for a grant agreement for that tomorrow, and about another $140,000 that's pending in Senator Sanders' office.
Wow!
Thanks to them, so that would bring about $250,000 of federal funding to the project in total. So with that, where is it? My brain's tired this morning.
Buddy. It's Monday. It's Monday.
It's Monday morning. That's why I have coffee here from Delicate Decadence. But ultimately, the decision, unfortunately, with the way that politics in Washington are going, it'll probably be up to Senators Manchin and Sinema if a project.
So
like
Leahy and Peter Welch are the two to watch here.
Well, and Sanders too. One of our members of Congress can submit a project. But I mentioned this because the deadline to put in community projects is Friday. So we found out about it late last week, and so I've already been on the phone with our city manager, with the Public Works Department, just to see what other infrastructure projects that we can go to put in.
Okay.
Basically, how much more money can we get the feds to pony up for some of this stuff? And little by little, hopefully, now that we have this additional funding source at our fingertips, as does everyone else in Vermont. Hopefully we can continue to poke away at some of our infrastructure needs.
So the catch net that you're dragging behind you is pretty impressive, buddy. It really is. You're so dialed into what's going on.
Well, we're
so lucky to have you.
Oh, I'm lucky to be here. So this was a practice for a long time, the earmark funding requests. This was a thing in Congress for a long time, and it actually got to be quite controversial because there are some unethical practices being done. There's a little bit of corruption, pay-for-play type stuff.
Really?
There's a couple movies about it, actually. So this got banned like a dozen years ago or so. It was right after the recession, I think. And only last year was it reinstituted. Senator Leahy, who's chair of the Budget Appropriations Committee, Senator Leahy, from a little state like Vermont, he has a ton of authority and clout in Washington. I think it was Howard Dean that once said that Pat Leahy was our fourth biggest industry here in Vermont or something like that. But he helped get the practice back up and going again, and reauthorized it, so now we can put in for projects. So if we're able to get those two projects that we mentioned earlier, that'll be over $1 million that'll be coming to Barre just because of that alone. And just think of all the other projects around the state that are going to be done as part of it.
Sure.
So there's definitely, we're kind of focusing in on some of the wastewater stuff. Basically anything that has a project budget and an engineering design is what we're, those are the two minimum things that we need, things at minimum that we need to put in for one of these projects.
I know that the process of this is painstakingly slow, bidding and whatnot. Do we have any kind of timeline idea on the Quarry Hill widening?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. Probably within the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely not this coming summer. I think we would have known about that by now.
I don't think so. No, I know it's a V-Trans project. I'm not sure, but there's also some other areas that we want to see where we can support and where we can help. So I've been reaching out to other nonprofits in the area, and other school. We reached out to the Central Vermont Career Center, and we reached out to nonprofits like the Granite Museum, Capstone, the Labor Hall, Studio Place Arts, other nonprofits that may have a project that is close enough to being, that's relatively close to being funded, that just needs money to get up and get off the ground. So over the next week, I'm expecting to go back and forth with engineers and probably Public Works to get an infrastructure request in for the city, but also working with our local nonprofits and school partners to see if we can help translate anything, write letters of support, do whatever we can to make sure that a project can get funded. I know last year we put in for the North Main Street Ejector Station project. There was the water line project coming from the Orange Reservoir, which is the city's main water source, and we put in for a project for the school, for Spalding High School as well, and they're for new audio-visual equipment. And so we worked with them as well.
Fantastic.
So any bit of money that we can help bring to Barre, we're all for and we're very interested in. So. I'm just lucky that I just happened to be talking to somebody the other day, a local nonprofit who we work closely with, about projects and funding, and earmarks came up, and I think we said, it'd be great if earmarks are back up again. So on a whim, I just go to Senator Leahy's website and I find out, oh no, in fact they are open. Yeah. They are back up and running for the next fiscal year, for fiscal year 23. It'll be a little interesting to see next year, once Senator Leahy's retired. We'll have a Senator Sanders, probably a Senator Welch, and we'll have either a Congresswoman Belaint, if I'm sure I'm butchering her name, Belaint, Gray, and Ram. So no matter what the likely outcome of the midterm elections is, I think we'll have good representation, and that's going to be one task, I think, for our new mayor, is to make friends with those in our congressional offices. And we all have to. I have to. Our whole city council has to. Our city manager does.
Sure.
We can never have too many friends here. But that's going to be one task for our new mayor, is getting closer and closer to those offices, being an advocate, being a cheerleader for Barre and for Barre projects, just to make sure that we can get that funding and that we can utilize a unique funding resource to address some of the big problems in Barre here that we have to solve.
I keep I've got to ask you, because I keep getting asked about it. Next time you see Cody, it seems like, I heard that out on the ice, out on Lake Maury.
People are talking about me out on the lake.
Well, next time you see Cody, well, it's usually on Monday mornings, with the Barre Business Hour. Ask him about this property, that property, Mr. J's. Do you know anything about it?
So they are going to be closing. They're not going to be renewing their lease. So whenever they close, whenever they finish, if somebody wants to lease a gas station, make a little beer emporium, or a grab and go little lunch stop, it's going to be a great property to do it. You're right off the highway, there.
Right there.
You're you're right next to our big shopping center. Tons and tons of visibility there, and it's really, like, I love the fact that we had a little beer emporium there. I bought some of the. Was it cider? Yeah, I bought some of the Barre beer ciders. Which reminds me, I should
Berry or something.
Yeah,
I had some of that too.
Yeah, I mean,
a little sweet for this old guy.
But, little sweet though. But I think
it was good though.
I think of it, if we're having people, like if we're having guests or anything.
Sure.
I like to have cool little things that I can show off when we have people from outside of the area, when we meet with them.
Yeah.
Like I have in my office a few pieces of granite from the Granite Museum, and instead of like fidget spinners on the table or something, I have little chunks of granite sitting in the windowsill. So when you're sitting there, you can kind of play with it. And, just exactly. little fidget type things, but that'd be a cool little like work gift type thing. And I bought some around the holidays, and bought some of the Barre beer around the holidays, and gave it for a gift to my brother.
Nice.
But little things like that are kind of cool to show off Barre. But I think regardless of what happens, that property is It's in a very good position, very good location.
Yeah, it is. Sure is.
And location is everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it won't be too long before somebody goes in there.
All right. Boy, there's some nice comments coming in about you, pal. You're just a rock star, brother. Really.
One thing.
I wanted to. You go ahead. I wanted to ask you about this welcome pack.
Go ahead and ask him.
The welcome pack that we have for new businesses that are coming into Barre. I know we just had some of the students from Spalding High School who are interning with the Barre Partnership, and as well as you, and creating this. But it would be amazing to get a little piece of granite in there, maybe a bottle of something, some flowers from Memsley's, whatever it may be. But yeah,
I think there's I think you're touching on a cool idea. Yeah, there can be some. Now you've got my brain turning.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a funny story that I had last week. So, Barre Area Development, we're a community and economic development organization. So our website, a lot of what Google registers us as, we have economic and Barre in a lot of our Google search activities. So once in a while, I'll get calls for people that are new to town or people that are even longtime residents here that are looking for economic services. Economic services refers to like fuel assistance, social programs, social assistance, those types of things, which is not in our wheelhouse. A lot of that is handled at the state. Those general welfare programs, SNAP, things of that nature. I think the only similarity between what those programs do and what we do are probably the names, some of the common verbiage. So we'll get calls once in a while for people that are looking for economic assistance or services. So I had one call last week from somebody who was new to town. They moved right here to downtown, and they had left me a voicemail. So before I called this gentleman back, I called the city clerk just to get the right numbers for them, just to have them. Just to tell them where to go in the right direction, because I didn't want to just pass them off to the city to have them pass them off to the state, and I wanted to make this as clear and direct for this person as possible.
Sure.
So I ended up getting some information from the city clerk. I called this person back, and we ended up having about a half an hour conversation. I told them where to go. They just moved here from outside of the area, and they moved here for a job, which was I can't say too much more about the type of work that they're doing, just to protect their identity. But they moved here for a job, which was very exciting. They're a young family, husband, wife, and a child, and I ended up having a great. It was like a cool survey opportunity. I asked them, so why'd you come to Barre? Of all the other places around here, how was it finding an apartment? What did you think about that? And
great question.
What do you know about Barre? Did you know that we have a bunch of downtown events? There's a great organization called the Barre Partnership. They do they host food trucks and concerts on Thursday nights in the summer. They do farmers markets on Wednesdays during the year. So basically, I use this as an opportunity to help this new resident, this newcomer, this new family to our community. I tried to help them. Trying to help them
get connected,
get connected here in the community.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned welcome packet, I had a light bulb moment. So I was telling this person about like some of the restaurants and some of the organizations, the attractions here. So I let them know about our website, barrevt.com. And I don't know what came over me, but I described it as it's essentially Barre's digital welcome packet.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because
it is very true.
And I told them that we're working on a physical welcome packet, and I got their address. So once we finish it up, they're gonna be the first family that we send it to. But it was kind of interesting. For some reason, I described it as Barre's digital welcome packet, completely on a whim. had never made that connection before, but it's absolutely true.
It sure is.
If you go on there, you can find out about all the trails, the recreation, the schools, the restaurants, the entertainment, the arts.
The videos that were produced, I don't know who did that, but they did a fantastic job, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Looks incredible.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
You got to watch these videos. They're short videos. They're right on barryvt.com.
Yep.
You got to check them out.
And to wrap up this little story, I started talking to this person about their job and what they're doing. So they told me about the department that they're going to be leading and what their company is going to be doing to potentially grow. So I put on my BADC hat for a minute and told them that our company, we can help them connect with some of these programs, that we can help them get the job training and grow their space, their business, what have you. So I kind of killed two birds with one stone there. It was pretty cool. It was.
How'd you find them? How'd you find them?
They called us.
They reached out to you.
Yes, because they were looking for economic services, and they hopped on Google and they looked up economics. They probably looked up economic services in Barrie.
Yeah.
So like the fuel assistance programs, like they're referred to as economic services. So we do community and economic development.
Yeah.
And the word Barrie is attached to us and it's in our company name.
Sure.
So this person saw it and figured, oh, okay, I'll just call this number. And
maybe a great idea to have, and I know you already do have, but to have the type of relationship with the real estate companies in town, to make sure, because they're going to know first before you who's coming in. Make sure if you sell a house to someone who's new to Barrie, that we get a welcome packet on their doorstep. We're hand delivered by you with a ring of the doorbell. Which is essential. It's essential.
That'd be kind of fun, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who would want to talk to me on their doorstep, but that'd be kind of fun, actually. I wouldn't mind.
I think it would be great.
Knocking and saying, hey, welcome to Barrie.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining our community.
Yep. Here's some information. We hope to see you out in town. You'll see me. You'll see Shannon Alexander and Tracy and Aired Out. And we'd love to meet you.
Yeah. So that's in the midst of all the other things that we do with our job, trying to get money for infrastructure projects, trying to find new homes for businesses, trying to get new businesses here, do everything in between. Once in a while I'll get a call like that, and it's fun. I like it's fun being Barrie's cheerleader, or one of Barrie's cheerleaders.
You are. You're one of the biggest, man.
But the consumer behavior part is something that we always need to pay attention to. Because,
sure we do.
I grew up just over the river in New Hampshire, went to school in St. Jay, and left school in Vermont right after I graduated high school. So I think of myself as an example of youth retention in the area that failed.
Yep.
Because I left. So whenever I'm doing these things, I'm always trying to keep part of my brain thinking about, okay, why did I leave?
Right.
Why did I leave at 18? And what would I have had? What could I have had that would have made me stay in St. Jay?
Well, would have kept me.
So
yeah, sure.
So that's why we're working closely at Spalding High School with our work-based learning students. We're trying to help the Career Center. We're working with companies to try to improve their job training. We're working with the partnership to bring vibrancy here to downtown. A lot of little things we do, but I go through my day a lot just trying to think about what could I have done, what would have been in the St. Jay community back in those days that would have kept me there. But just a little side note.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I forget, let's do something together. Let's plan something out to go over to the Rise Up Bakery, even if it's just you and I just walking in there and buying some of their amazing breads. But let's do something to get them more in the business spotlight, to help them out, to promote them. I had heard of the Rise Up Bakery, But admittedly, and you and I had this conversation by phone over the weekend, I didn't even know they were in Barre, but I had heard of Rise Up Bakery because I said, well, that's a pretty cool play on words.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good branding, a Rise Up Bakery. But I did not know that they were right here in our backyard, literally a couple hundred yards from where we're sitting right now. Mm-hmm. So let's try to change that. Let's do all we can to bring them some recognition, and whether it's bring them on the podcast here, or maybe we go over there and go live on the air, or whatever we can do to help out.
And I think, with our job, we work in the public interest, and with how you're running your show, with how you're running your company, you're not doing this to get rich. You do it because you love it, and you love promoting the great things that are being done in the community. So the way that I see it, if we can help make their lives, it's a little easier, bring them a little more business, then we've both done our job.
I keep saying, and I've said this so many times, it's one thing to have a great thing in your backyard, or to do a great thing in your backyard. But if you're not promoting it, or if people are unaware of it for whatever reason, be it location, or maybe you've got a pretty tight advertising and marketing budget, promotion budget, whatever it may be, if people don't know about it, they're not going to be there.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and that's just the bottom line.
Oh, absolutely. Well, one last thing, one big thing that happened last week, in the midst of everything else that's been going on in the world, there's town meeting day.
Yes.
On Tuesday. So I think everything passed. The school budget passed, the Career Center school district proposal passed, the city budget passed, the local options tax passed.
Yeah.
We have a new city council,
yes,
and we have a new mayor.
Yeah.
So their first meeting with this council is going to be tomorrow. So now Lucas Herring, who we had on last week with us, the former mayor, Lucas is in, I don't want to say semi-retirement, but his workload is a little less than it was the week before. I actually saw him at the basketball game over the weekend. He's the only guy in Barre that I know of that'll wear a Chiefs hat. So even with a mask, I saw the Chiefs hat and I knew, like, wait a minute, that's got to be Lucas. So I think. I'm happy for him that he'll be able to take some time and relax a little more because he put his heart and soul into the city. But I'm excited to work with this new city council.
Some new faces.
Yeah, we got some new faces. Councilor Deering and I, we spent some time talking last week and talked about mutual things we're going to be working on, and we're going to plan to take a walk through his neighborhood at some point, so I can learn a little bit more about his neighborhood and other areas that we can work to collaborate on. And I've also been in contact with Mayor Hemrick, with Jake. We've had a few email threads actually going throughout the last week, and I know he has a big agenda. There's a lot of things that he wants to work on in regards to downtown revitalization, infrastructure development. So I'm excited to work with him. I'm excited to work with the new council. I think Barre has a lot of good days ahead. Change can be good sometimes. Yeah. So I think there's going to be a lot to look forward to. I think I think Lucas did a great job as mayor. I can't say enough about the guy, but I'll be interested to see how this new city council works out. Yeah. But I'm excited to work with each and every one of them.
Thank you for saying that. I know that town meeting day was huge. It was huge.
But I'm just glad political season is over.
Many are.
I think I speak for most people when I say I'm glad that political season is over.
We've got right now almost 40 degrees, and that's pretty much where it's going to stay today. Awesome. Yeah, we're really not going to be pushing much beyond 40 today if we're lucky enough to get there.
That's fine. We're going to get rid of some snow, and that means I can start working on cars outside again.
Yes.
I can finally change my spouse's oil and tensioners and serpentine belt. I can finally fix the cooling the coolant system in
we have
Volkswagen.
We have rain in the mix today. That's
fine. That's fine. I can find a tarp. It's easier to work in the rain when it's 40 than it is to work when it's 5 degrees out and you're having to crawl under a car.
Oh my God,
you're having plastic bits break on you.
Exactly.
I'm a big supporter of spring. Again, April is my favorite month because it just keeps getting better every day.
I know.
Oh, and
it's so funny that you say that.
Next week is also one of my favorite days of the year.
What's that now?
Daylight Savings Time Day.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the clocks go forward an hour, so it's going to start being light out until 7 o'clock.
Hey, I almost forgot. National Cereal Day today.
That's a cause I can get behind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Me too.
Get your Fruity Pebbles.
What's
get your Frosty Reeds.
What's your favorite?
Oh man, what is my favorite cereal?
For me, it's Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I think. I could eat a whole box easily.
I'm not a huge sweets guy, but I think I probably feel best when I have a lot of the boring granola-based cereal. Well, it's got fiber, protein, all that good stuff. I put enough bad stuff in my body anyway, so whenever I have something good in the morning to kick off the day, I always...
Michael Booten says you're a bran flakes kind of guy. I mean, that's not... Why would he say that? That's not nice. That's not
bran
nice
flakes?
at all.
Nothing wrong with bran flakes. Cereal's one of those areas where I don't really have a very strong opinion of.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's. But what I try to avoid are the cereals that are obviously very bad for you, or when I say that, obviously very much like a candy bar in a box, like the very sugary. And granted, a lot of them are, but.
I love the Reese's peanut butter cereal. Sherilyn got me a box of that.
Now you got me thinking about cereal.
Oh my God! Look, a little bit of rain and snow tonight. If you're going to be out traveling, 24 degrees, could be slick depending on where you are. 30 tomorrow. A little bit of sun, a little bit of clouds, and a little bit of snow flurries. We're going to post up more details on some of the Vermont stories that are trending today, but one of them is that state police are now saying that the pileup last month on Interstate 89 in Milton may have been the largest motor vehicle crash in Vermont history. Really? Yeah. We've got an Enosburg man who's facing a criminal charge after allegedly waving a gun at another driver during a road rage incident in Fairfield over the weekend. We'll have that story for you. And we have 2 people with serious injuries this morning after a crash that state police say was caused by a drunk driver in Wethersfield. So more on that. Went down Saturday on Interstate 91. So we'll post up more about that. Music news tonight. We have the Academy of Country Music Awards. Dolly Parton, going to be hosting that live on Prime Video, 7 o'clock tonight from Las Vegas. Don't forget, if you're a fan, she's got her new mystery thriller, Run, Rose, Run, that's out today, co-authored by James Patterson. Interesting. Sports tonight, 7 o'clock for the Kings and the Bruins is when they'll drop the puck. Of course, Alex Bowman getting his first checkers of the year at the NASCAR Pennzoil 400 yesterday in Vegas. Kyle Larson, his teammate, finishing second. Tonight, we've got that big game that you were talking about earlier, Cody.
Yep.
CVTsport.net, 8 o'clock. Presumably, I'm assuming, under the strong assumption, that Carl Parton will have that game.
I would imagine.
So, and also, don't forget, Red Roses for Central Vermont, or Red Noses for Central Vermont. This is a charity comedy show that's going to be Sunday, March 20th at Gusto's Bar with the Big and Tall Comedy Tour. Proceeds going to be benefiting local Central Vermont organizations preventing childhood poverty. Mike Bova, the comedian, who's going to be coming in from New York, he's going to join us at about noon today by telephone here at Aired Out. We look forward. This will be the second time we've had the opportunity to chat with him, but it is going to be a lot of fun. We do have the tickets for sale right here at our studios. They're $60 a piece. You get a steak dinner as a meal over at Gusto's before the comedy show at 6:30 that night, again on Sunday, March 20th. We're going to be there, and we're very much looking forward to having an adult night out. Haven't had that in a little while. But, cocktail hour at 4, dinner served at 5, and the show, this charity comedy show, going to be starting at 6:30, again, on the evening of Sunday, March 20th at Gusto's. We would love to see you there. Thanks to CODY Morrison and Barre Area Development coming in every Monday for the Barre Business Hour. We always have so much to chat about, and I look forward to getting over to the Rise Up Bakery with you, man. We're going to do that soon.
It's fun to unpack the stuff every week. And as a last little shout out, Barre Beat tonight, 7 o'clock. Check it out on the Barre City Community Fan page on Facebook. It's always a good show. Michael Booten and Rich Morey talk about city politics. And tonight, I'm assuming they're going to be talking about town meeting day and what's on the packet for tomorrow.
Yes.
For tomorrow night for the city council meeting. So make sure to check them out.
Thanks for coming in here, brother.
Yeah, thanks
for sponsoring us. Thanks for all the great work that you do, that you bring to the airwaves here. I already look forward to next Monday. And I know in the meanwhile, if you got anything going on, you and I are always in touch. You'll let me know, and I will let as many people know as possible.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, my man. We'll catch you again real soon.
Thanks.